That works. Here I am telling him how to do his job. So I'm sorry, carry on. Now tell me, is there a ragtime version of that? I'm just curious. We're on the topic. Do you have like a death metal version of that? No? We could try it. I'll give the accompaniment.
Classical guitar.
Classical is death metal?
Clean guitar, blues.
Right. Whoa. That might work. Right, okay, let's do it. Right? Thank you very much. Again, it hasn't even started yet. This is all free shit. All right, I have to ask this. How long have we been doing this? Lean into my chest when you talk. It's very, very hot.
I don't know, actually. How long have we been doing this for?
All my life, it seems. Okay, the problem is, when I do this, I'm usually drunk out of my ass. So when we say, when do we start this, I say, fuck, I don't know. Was I even there? But it was at some convention, some performance somewhere. My vague memory is that you had a concert right before Story Hour, and I came stumbling onto stage, completely shit-faced, covered in my own vomit, as normal, and I said, why don't you just stay there, and I'll give and it worked. It was like having a piano accompaniment to a silent film. But the film wasn't silent, it was loud and obnoxious. But it still worked. This man has been a brother to me ever since. You are indeed like a brother to me, meaning every time I see you, I want to punch you silly. That's why. So what's going to happen is I'm going to tell stories. What stories am I going to tell? I don't know, whatever comes to mind. However, what you must know is all of my stories are absolutely 105% true, as certified by the United States White House itself. That paragon of truth and justice and the American fucking way. Right. Okay, we don't even stand for that anymore. Actually, there's a lot of things we don't stand for. What? Still haven't started yet. Isn't this great? This is the pre-show to the show. See, okay, we could do the whole, walk on stage, that's no fucking fun. So, the reason I say fuck so much is people said you need to learn the local language. So, I will also point out, as an American, I am actually contractually obligated to attempt to speak in a Scottish accent. It will be absolutely bad, and it'll be laughable. You are free to laugh at it. However, this will be a scientific experiment. The question is, will my Scottish accent get better the more of this I drink? So we shall see. Once we get to official starting, I'm going to talk about my first visit to Scotland, as a matter of fact. How much of an eye-opener it was for, a pervy old fucker from the States. I learned a lot, actually. Yeah. Oh boy, did I learn a lot. I do love this country. It is one of the last civilized areas on this planet, I must say. Oh, here we go. Okay, you might have heard me earlier. They put all this lovely, lovely wine up here. The problem is, as much as I enjoy my wines, there are some that I actually cannot drink. These are all of them. But they had this here. This is fine. It's from California. That must mean something somewhere. And when you pour wine, it is very important that you get all of it into the glass, which is what I intend to do right now. And you're supposed to leave a little bit of headspace at the top, but I do not. Because they say you're supposed to be able to get the aroma of the nose and everything. Guys, this is shitty wine. I'm sorry. In California, it's literally $3 a bottle. I don't know why they spent 20 quid on it here. What time we got? Oh, 1 minute to go. 1 minute to go. Okay. Not yet. This is like your friends. Not yet. Oh, fuck, it stopped. The hell time is it? Oh, right. Oh, show's over. All right. All right, let's begin, shall we? I'm Uncle Kage. I'm the old fucker from the States they bring over here to get drunk and tell stories. I'm accompanied by Scotland's finest musician, Mr. Amoore. This is not my first visit to Scotland. I fondly remember. But, whoa, it sounds like my spine. Don't ever get old. You won't like what happens. I first came to Scotland actually on a business trip some years ago. And I flew on Logan Air, which was actually a very, very nice airline. I enjoyed it. But what stuck in my mind was I do believe that the fellow who gave the safety demonstration was himself a Glaswegian. Because he got up there and he got the microphone and he held up the life jacket and he said, "In the event of a water landing, you're fucked. Don't worry about it. Because when we hit the water, it's going to be cold. You're going to die of hypothermia. So you might as well have a drink. We'll be sending along whiskey any moment." And then, and I'm not making this up, he actually called the purser. The purser came out with a set of bagpipes to continue. It was the song, and I've sung that song for you. We started out with it. Give it to us. In the event of sudden loss of cabin pressure, the panel above your head will open can automatically grasp the mask for me, breathe normally. He'll fly on Ryanair and I'll stick with Loganair, and I'll be in Scotland before you. Well, I'm not going to continue that. Sorry. Okay, the second part wasn't true. The first part was. The second part I made up. Because I like Loganair. I've heard about Ryanair. I don't know if the stories are true, but what was I doing? All right. Force of habit, yes. I am normally right-handed. I've heard tales of Ryanair, and one tale that I heard was actually from a colleague of mine. He was flying Ryanair, and there was a delay or something, and some businessmen came up there very unhappy with the delay. And the poor lady at the counter was explaining to them, it's nothing we can help you. These things happen, weather, breakdowns. And the man, in a very, very angry voice, said, don't you know who I am? And the lady said, you can't be anyone or you wouldn't be running this airline, would you? That first visit to Scotland was educational for me, from a linguistic standpoint. I should explain. I'll need this for that. It was actually in Edinburgh. That's this gentleman's hometown. Lovely city, absolutely lovely city. I had occasion to take a bus to where I was headed to, and the bus was quite full. I had the very last seat on the bus. And we stopped at the next stop, and a very, very frail little old lady with a cane got on. I am from the southern United States. I've been raised as a gentleman. So I stood up, and I gestured to the seat. And the lady came by, and she sat down, and she looked up at me, and she said, oh, stuff it, you knock-kneed collie fancier. Now, Google Translate was not a thing yet, but I did have a translation app that was programmed for Scottish to American. Okay. All right, hang on. No, not financier. No, stop it. Thank you very much, young man. Ah. You're very welcome, ma'am. It was my pleasure. And she said, oh, fuck off, you cunt. Have a nice day. I like learning new languages. So when I got off the bus, came to my stop, I waved to the bus driver, I said, fuck off, you cunt. Oh. He was from Ireland. Like I say, it was I almost forgot, I have this. I don't even know if Fox even knows this story. What do we hear? This is actually a medical splint, which I'm going to put on my finger. For much of last year, I was going around to furry conventions with this splint on my finger. And people kept asking me, what happened to your finger? I said, you'll have to go to Story Hour for that. Well, here we are. I shall tell you. A good storyteller is able to make up any kind of excuse. However, I could not. I could not come up with something better than the truth. First off, you must know, I am 60 years old. I fucking dislocated my finger taking off my socks. As I said, do not get old. You won't like what happens. I'm taking off my goddamn sock, and I both felt and heard a snap. And the tip of my finger was like flopping about. Well, the very first thing I did, I was drinking a glass of wine, which had nothing to do with the event, by the way. So I plunged my finger into the glass of wine, which was cold. Remember, any injury, ice immediately. So, wanting to maybe get something for it, I walked to the local pharmacy, the chemist, I think you call it, isn't it? And I went up and I did this to the chemist behind the counter, and he barely looked up. He said, "Evening, Mr. Conway, how are you?" I said, "Well, same as usual, other than this. Do you have like any finger Viagra that, you know? I mean, look, you know." And he said, "Oh my, what did you do?" And I said, "I was fighting a pit bull." And he said, "No, yeah." I said, never mind. I'm not going to ask questions. I know you." So he gave me one of these, like, temporary splint things to put on your finger. He said, "You should see a doctor in the morning." So the next morning, I went to the doctor and showed him this thing. And he said, "Oh, yes, we've seen that before. How did you do it?" I said, "Shut the fuck up and fix it." Well, what he'd explained, this is an interesting bit of trivia. There are two tendons in this finger, and I'm not being rude, honest. There are two tendons in this finger. There's one on top and one on the bottom. I had managed to snap the one on top, and essentially it had rolled itself up like an old-fashioned window blind down to here. Do people even know what old-fashioned window blinds are? Probably not. So he said, you're just going to have to wear this splint for a while. There's my spine again. God damn it. I wore it, and it wasn't getting any better. It was still like old man finger here, yep. So I showed it to the doctor. He said, "Okay, we're going to have to do surgery." I said, "Is this serious surgery?" He said, "Not for me." He said, "I do it all the time. You're not going to like it." And I started to ask him questions, but I have a long experience with physicians, and we'll cover that in a moment. Let's finish this tale. The doctor said, "Keep that finger splint." It was actually the temporary splint. He made this one for me. And I said, "What's this for?" He said, "You're going to need it." Okay, I don't know if I like the sound of that. So what did he do? We'll go on this finger. He basically took my finger. Do you know what a finishing nail is? It's a very long, thin spike of metal about this long. Well, he basically put it on the tip of my finger, took a hammer, and drove it on in. Then he took a very, very long pair of tweezers, went down, found the end of the, I see people down there squirming, started pulling the tendon back up, and then sewed it into place. And then put this on it. Now, I did have some stitches. He did have to open the flesh of it. And he said to me, "You need to keep this absolutely dry for the next 7 days." All right. Fortunately, my dear old friend Ronnie, you might see him around here. He's the noodle dragon. He came to visit to help look after me. It is very, very good to have friends that will do that for you. Keep your friends close and your piano players closer. He took me first to another pharmacy, another chemist, and you see, I knew that if somebody has an injury where you need to keep that area dry, surely they make devices that will help keep the area dry. or one would think. Well, they do. They have these things for your entire arm, and they have things for the entire leg. It seemed a bit of a waste for this to have this thing going all the way up my arm. And I was talking with Ronnie saying, okay, what can we do? Okay, they make these finger cots for secretaries, like little tiny things that roll over, but they were too small to go over this. So I said, okay, what those finger cuts are essentially a very small condom. Well, why don't we just get a condom? Simple. So we walked over to the condom display. I don't know about this country, but in my country, it's a big thing. They got this big flashy thing with like neon lights around it. And that's when I noticed something. Okay, things have changed since I was a teenager. Every single condom these days is lubricated. When I was your age, we had to buy our own lube. But now the condom comes lubricated. Well, that's defeating the purpose. I cannot have a condom with lubricant on it. Now, the pharmacist came over ostensibly to assist us. And I heard him say, "May I help you?" And it didn't occur to me at the time, here's this pervy old man and this very, very strapping, muscular Asian looking at the condoms. And he said, "May I help you, gentlemen?" I said, "Yes, I'm looking for something without lube. Do you by any chance?" And I turned and he was gone. Just vanished into thin air. Oh, that's amazing. Is a man a cat? What is going on here? We went to 3 different pharmacies. 3 different pharmacies only had lubricated condoms, and 3 different pharmacists vanished when I tried to explain what I was looking for. I think Ronnie frightened them. That's what it was. However, fortunately, we live in the modern world. Amazon. You can buy anything on Amazon.com, including non-lubricated condoms, provided you are willing to buy a case of 500. That's the only way they sell it, in the manufacturer's case of 500. One does what one must, so I ordered it. You never know. Actually, at my age, you do know, sadly. But I might break another finger. This is a still image for you, isn't it? I live in what we call a condominium. It's essentially like a set of flats, but you own the space rather than rent it. And it has 6 units with a common area in between. That's where packages get delivered. Ordinarily, Amazon sends you things in this very, very nice little box with like a smiley face on it. Unless you're buying a manufacturer's case of something, in which case they just slap a label on it with your name very prominently and leave it on your doorstep. I had to do some very, very careful explaining to my neighbors, saying, really, honestly. I also had to explain to my very, very nice, sweet cleaning lady. She's magnificent. Her name is Sonia. I love her to pieces. But I felt I had to explain to her why there was a hand-lettered sign on the inside of my bedroom door saying, "Remove condom before going to work." Because, you know, you're old, you wake up at 6 a.m., you get your shower, I didn't want to forget. She was very understanding, except she still smirks when I show up. And occasionally, when I am home, when she's visiting, she'll say, "Have you seen your Asian friend lately?" I say, "Sonia, leave the comedy to me, all right?" I mentioned my experience with doctors. I'm going to take you back to the far past, when I still had dark brown hair, and more of it, before Anthrocon 2002. My family doctor was a beloved man, an excellent physician. I always just referred to him on stage as Dr. K, because, let's just say he's Dr. K. We used to get into this sort of playful back and forth banter because he was very reluctant to address me as doctor, even though I happily called him doctor. And we sort of got into a discussion about that. And I said, I need to remind you of a couple of things. First off, I got more letters than you. I got 3 letters. I got PhD. You got MD. I am 50% more a doctor than you are. At least, I used to say that until I met Doc Rat, a physician who was also a furry from Australia. If you've gone to the Doc Rat site, www.docrat.com.au, he draws a weekly, actually a daily strip where he basically illustrates the foibles of being a physician using anthropomorphic characters that absolutely do not represent any of his patients in an identifiable fashion. That motherfucker has got 28 letters after his name. I mean, his business card has like a little extension you have to pull out. There's only 26 letters in language. I think he made 2 up. He's like, MD, PH, this, fellow of the Royal Australian Academy of Guys with letters after their names. Fuck you, doctor. There. Had to say it. But Dr. K, I had to remind him, my dear Dr. K, said I to him, it has barely been 100 years now when the learned natural philosopher was referred to as doctor. The fellow that would slice into you and put leeches on you was called barber. Well, we let that conversation sit for a bit, and it was not long afterward that I developed a medical condition, a rash on my arm. I am a learned man. So I, of course, did my own research, and I had already diagnosed this as a very, very rare case of beriberi, a dreadful tropical disease which is borne by mosquitoes and can be fatal. So I went into Dr. K. I said, Dr. K, I have a terrible case of beriberi. I want you to save my life because I'm not yet ready to die. And he said, that's your diagnosis, is it? I said, absolutely. It can be nothing else. So he looked at it and he said, may I offer an alternative theory? I said, you're certainly welcome to. It's a free country, at least for now. He said, okay, we need more evidence. The weather of late, has it been moist or dry? I said, well, it's been decidedly dry. He said, very good. Is it possible that concurrently your skin may also have become dry? I said, well, it does stand to reason. He said, I shall accept your diagnosis of beriberi, but I would like to offer the alternative diagnosis of something we in medical science call dry skin. He said, tell you what, go buy some Vaseline, get the hell out of my office. Actually, he actually said that. That's why I love the man. So I did, but the condition got worse. Oh. It's worse. Oh, I had to make an appointment. I can only imagine me walking into his office. showed it to him, and he said, "Oh my goodness, it hasn't gotten any better." I said, He said, "In fact, it appears to have gotten worse." I said, yeah. And he said, "It would appear that whereas I disagree with your diagnosis of beriberi, I believe my diagnosis may also have been erroneous." I said, "I'm sorry?" He said, "My diagnosis was erroneous." I said, No. I want to hear you say it. "Your diagnosis was wrong." I want to hear it. "You were wrong, Mr. Two Letters, weren't you?" Yes, you were wrong and I was right. I'll tell you what, just a little off the top today, how about? He listened to this tirade quietly, and then he went over to a drawer and he pulled out a latex glove. I would very much like a second opinion before we proceed. He said, "Very well. Now, we had the most astonishing, playful relationship I have. Had then and have now the absolute highest respect for Dr. K. He is an incredible diagnostician. I believe he saved my life, my family's lives many times over. He has, and I say this without reservation, the hands of Hippocrates himself. I can tell you, though, Hippocrates had some really big knuckles. It was kind of funny because some people thought I made all that up, that Dr. K didn't exist. How dare somebody suggest that Uncle Kage tells stories that are not 105% true. It was at an unnamed Midwest United States convention that takes place in Chicago, where I was going to be doing several things at that convention. I woke up on a particular morning feeling unwell. The French have a magnificent word, malaise, where, it's just something's, you know that feeling where it's like you're like half a second behind the rest of the world? Now, I'm just tired. That's all it is. I'm just tired. So I went downstairs to have breakfast, and let's just say the breakfast did not agree with me. In fact, nothing agreed with me that day. And people were starting to say to me, "Kage, do you feel all right?" And I was nervous. I said, "Well, why do you ask? Am I pallid? Am I perspiring? Do I look off balance?" They said, "No, you're not holding any wine." Oh, what a giveaway. So I decided I'll just power through this. But then, even without the introduction of food or beverage, shall we say the return cycle had been activated. As the American comic, who since has gone through some issues of himself, Bill Cosby once said, I would not have been surprised to see my shoes in the thing. I was supposed to be doing the charity auction. And my colleague, Rigel, who is also a very good charity auctioneer himself, was sitting in the audience. I am not a lip reader, but I could tell what he was saying to the man next to him. Because as I'm doing the auction, sitting down, I was doing this, and I could see Rigel say to the next guy, he's getting lower and lower. And there came a moment when I said, okay, sold to the gentleman over there. Rigel, take over, I'll be right back. Backstage, there was a corridor at the end of which was, exactly what I needed. One of these. Have you ever seen like a Steven Spielberg movie when somebody's running down a corridor, but it's longer and longer the faster they run? It was only the forward momentum was keeping this in. I finally got there, and once again, my shoes, my spleen wound up in there. I got up, and I finished the auction, and I slowly shuffled off stage, and the staff backstage said, "Are you all right?" And I said, "Honestly, I don't think so," and I collapsed. I think that alarmed them, because they said, "He hasn't drunk anything. This is expected, but only when he's had something to drink." So they helped me to my feet, and they said, "What do you want to do?" "Okay, just get me to my room." They got me to my room. By that time, I was soaked in sweat, I was shivering, I was burning with fever. And they sent a medic up, and because in my country you don't want a fucking ambulance. That's $15,000 right there. I can't afford that shit. So they sent a medic up, and he was very, very concerned because he took my temperature in the proper imperial units that you guys used to use but got rid of, but we are stuck with 104 degrees temperature, which is, about 40 and a half, 41. Okay, I was fucked, let's say. Kind of almost delirious. And the medic said, "Should I call someone?" I said, "Actually, yes. Here is a phone number." And I said, "Call that number." And he picked up the phone and he called it. He said, "Who is it?" I said, "Dr. K." And he looked surprised because this is the only other person in furry fandom had actually communicated with the mythological Dr. K. So I heard him speak back and forth, and he handed the receiver to me. I said, "Yes, my good Dr. K, how are you this evening?" He said, "Well, I'm doing well. My question, though, is how are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, so-so." And I said, I appear to be quite feverish. I can't keep anything down, and I think I have beriberi. And he said, "Are you at one of your conventions?" I said, "Yes, I am." And he said, "Have you been telling your stories?" I said, "I only discussed you in the most respectful fashion." He said, "I see. Would you kindly hand the phone back to the gentleman?" And handed the phone back. And then he spoke back and forth, hung up, and he said to me, "Dr. K says we need to get your fever down. We are going to need to get some acetaminophen into you, Tylenol, that is, in my country. However, if you were to take a tablet, it would just come right back up with its imprint perfectly intact. You're going to have to chew it." Have you ever chewed one of those? Number one, if you've never chewed one, don't. It is the most ghastly, ungodly torment. This is something you give to somebody that you suspect of being a terrorist to get them to confess. Secondly, they make liquid Tylenol. That son of a bitch knew that. I had to chew that shit. But it worked. We brought the fever down. By the next day, I was actually able to take solid food. By the next evening, I was able to take other food. Dr. K has retired. I don't know if he watches YouTube, but if you do, Dr. K, you know I've always loved you, my boy. Thank you very much. I mentioned before that I had that early trip to Edinburgh. It was a business trip, and I was staying in a little hotel in I believe it's the New. They call it Newtown in Edinburgh. It's the 900-year-old section. You know, the brand new construction as opposed to the stuff from the Neolithic era over here. Yes, I did have to go to the castle. Yes.
One place where I heard an American literally say, looking at the castle, how did you get it to look so old?
Talking to my chest.
How did you get it to look so old?
Yeah, that was a Yank, yeah. Now, here I am a Yank at Edinburgh Castle. I got to meet, at the time, Lieutenant Mackey, yes, Tam the Gun, fantastic fellow. And I had the shit scared out of me by the 1 o'clock gun. And I asked the eternal tourist question, which this poor sucker has heard for 40 years. Why 1 o'clock? Everywhere else in the world, you mark the hour of noon. Well, he was ready for me. He didn't miss a beat. He said, we're Scottish, laddie. If we did it at 12, we'd have to waste 12 shells. All right, that makes sense. So I conducted the business I was in Edinburgh to conduct. And I actually had the next day to myself. I could be a tourist. And I woke up, and I happened to look in the mirror, as one does. And, well, have you ever looked in the mirror and seen something that you did not expect to see? Like, I'm not talking like Donald Trump or something. I'm talking something almost as scary. My left eye appeared to be completely filled with blood. It was like an entire bright crimson glowing red. And I looked and I said, I don't think it was that way when I went to bed. I think I would have noticed. And it's rather hard to see out of it. I should perhaps seek medical attention. I went downstairs. There was a nice young lady at the reception desk. Now, ordinarily when I travel, I tend to dress, as some people call it, to the nines. I prefer to wear a three-piece suit. Usually these days, an English bowler hat. Back then, it was a fedora that I wore. So I walked up to the lady with this glowing crimson eye, and I said, excuse me, miss, is there a medical clinic in town? And she looked at me and said, this wouldn't be about your eye, would it? And I said, no, I hurt my shoulder. What's wrong with my eye? So she was very kind. She gave me the address of the Mayfield Clinic. And she then called a taxi for me. It's very, very hospitable folk in this country. I do love them. So I waited outside. The taxi showed up. And I got in the back, and I said, the Mayfield Clinic, please. And the driver looked in the rearview mirror and said, this wouldn't be about your eye, would it? I said, by sheer coincidence, yes. Yes. So I gave him the address. We drove to the remains of a burned-out building, and that was certainly the address. And the driver said, do you want to... I said, you know what? I'm a storyteller. This is where my stories come from. Just leave me off here. So I said, maybe the Mayfield Clinic is a budget clinic. Maybe you go in there and there's a fellow sitting on a bucket with some rusty tools or something. But I actually looked inside. No, this is actually a burned out building. I don't think there's any question about it. So I walked out and I went to the curb, and a nice lady came by. She was walking her dog. I said, I beg your pardon, madam. I don't mean to interrupt your walk. Can you tell me where the Mayfield Clinic is? And she said, this wouldn't be about your eye, would it? I said, Actually, yes, now that you mention it. So they had moved. I guess the fire might have had something to do with that. So it's around the corner. There's a new building. Thank you very much, madam. So I walked around the corner to the new building, and I went to the receptionist. I said, excuse me, do you have any appointments open today? And she said, I said, yes! Right, she said, have a seat. We'll try to fit you in. So I sat down, and it was no more than 10 minutes later. The lady came out and said, Mr. Conway? I said, yes. She said, Dr. K will see you now. That man gets around. All right, so I went in. To that day, he was the most Scottish-looking man I had ever seen in Scotland. This big, huge guy with this giant, flaming red mane and this huge beard with candles glowing in it. And he sat down. He sat me in front of me and said, all right, look up, look down, now look to the left. Oh, just as I thought, it's just your average subconjunctival hemorrhage. It'll go in its own, pay the lady on the way out 50 quid. I said, do I have to do anything? He said, nah, it'll go in its own, pay the lady on the way out. So I paid the lady on the way out, my 50 quid, and went about my day. I wound up taking the train back down to London. It was my final day on these magnificent isles that you have here. And I did have to get onto the London tubes in order to get to my hotel. First off, I do take exception to the London tubes, particularly the directions one is given. Oh, it's easy to find just to get on the blue line, and at Elephant and Castle, take the slightly less blue line. Go down 24 flights of stairs to the molten core of the earth. Mind the gap. Has anybody here ever ridden the London tubes? Yes. Have you ever ridden them at rush hour? Yes. How easy is it to find a seat? There was a fellow sitting down, and here, this tall figure in a black trench coat with a three-piece suit, with a fedora, with a flaming red eye, just stood over him. Well, he fucked off real quick. So I sat myself down, and somebody sat next to me, and I just... And they fucked off. I had practically a private carriage on the tubes at rush hour. It was delightful. So this is what royalty's like. Funny that, because of my habit of wearing that bowler, I am often asked on aircraft, are you a member of British royalty? And I say, oh, not at all, madam, I'm a hooligan. Of the Philadelphia hooligans, of course. Why is there suddenly a close-up of my wine? That's a hint. I saw that, you cunt, trust me. You know what? We can talk about wine. We're going to talk about wine in the context of a dainty, frail, little old lady that some of you may have met at your occurrence. My dear old mom. 90 years old, she goes by Grandma Kage in the fandom. Yes, she's a furry. She was a furry before there was a word for it. She is also the person you do not fuck with. Maybe I should. This one's met her, and he'll back me up on it. I think I was 22 years old, rebellious young man, filling his oats. Here's his mom. What the hell do you know, woman? I'm going to mouth off to you. she reached up, grabbed my collar, hauled me down to her 4.5-foot height, and got in my face, and she said, "You will never be so big that I cannot stand on a chair and take you down with a broom." Maybe some more explanation is needed as to where she came from. He knows. She's this frail, dainty little lady. She has a little cane with like pink roses on it, and she hobbles around. Oh, carry your poor old mother's purse for her. Oh, she is so pitiful. That's today. I'm going to take you all back on a journey of the mind, back to the year 1956. 1956, there was a fellow, kind of looked like this, a little bit more handsome than what you see here, a lot younger too. Early 20s, Staff Sergeant Sam Conway, freshly out of the United States Army, Georgia farm boy. He's finished up his career with the military, and now he's standing on a street corner trying to decide what he wants to do with the rest of his life. While he was standing there pondering the infinite, as we say in that part of the world, up the pike came roaring this Harley Davidson with this leather-clad individual on it, with a spiked German helmet, engineer boots, chains hanging down. She gunned the engine, swung her leg off the bike, walked up to him without a word, just punched him dead in the gut. And he went down at her feet. 6 months later, they were married. Now, if you bring this up to the lady today, she will get extremely agitated. And she'll say, "What has he been telling you?" She claims that the story is entirely untrue. My father has passed away, but I got the tale from him. What I have just told you is his version of the story. She says that's not how it happened. It was a Norton, not a Harley. She favored the English bikes, you see. Number two, she said she gave him ample warning. She said, and I quote, "Hey, stud, make a muscle." Because back then, that's what the tough girls did. You know, look at me, I'm tough. Look, you can hit me and see how tough I am. Well, my father was from the deep south. He didn't know this quaint local custom. Also, he had been in charge of an artillery regiment in days before you had such a thing as hearing protection. He was deaf as a post to the day he died. My mom, if you get her drunk enough, will tell you that she could feel his backbone on her knuckles. And if you get her even more drunk, when she is in a mood to tell the truth, because we all know drunks cannot lie, they're incapable of lying. Say, "Mom, why did you do it?" She will eventually confess, "I'd seen him about town and he was not paying attention to me." That's one way. I don't recommend it. There's laws against that these days. But having set the scene, we're going to take you forward to the year 2019. In my home city of Raleigh, in the South Canadian province of North Carolina. Some of you got that. They were having a wine festival. Well, you can see this piqued my interest. Ronnie was visiting. He often visits. He's practically family as well. And for some reason, we decided to take Mom. I still don't know why we made this fateful decision. because it was going to be a very warm day, and it's an outdoor festival. We're going to take, at the time, an 83-year-old woman who has to walk with a cane to this outdoor wine festival. And we realized that we had made something of a strategic error because, number one, it was just basically a big empty lot that they had filled with little booths that the various wineries had set themselves up in. And there was a massive queue in front of each one. What they were doing was a couple or an individual, whatever, would get to the front, and the sommelier would then go through all of the wines with just these two people. A good 10, 15 minutes, then they'd fuck off, and then the next phone would come up and they'd go through all the wines. We're standing there in what would have been, for you guys, 41-degree temperatures, and the lady was obviously looking very peaked, and the line was huge. So I said, okay, Ronnie, we need to find a chair for this woman. There's got to be a chair here somewhere. Tell you what, you go that way, I'll go this way. First of us finds a chair, just bring it back for her. That was a tactical error because I got about 50 yards away and I heard the commotion. And when I turned around, she's beating people in the crowd with a cane. Out of the way, old lady coming through, out of the way, get out of the way, out of the way, old lady, old lady. I was like, oh my God, stop, Mom, stop. I'm so sorry, Mom, I apologize. She's senile, I'm sorry, She got up to the front, shoved me out of the way, grabbed the bottle from sommeliers. Everybody, put your glasses up. Here you go, that's how you do it. I wish to God that I was exaggerating. I really wish that story was not true. When it came time to leave the wine festival, as some of the organizers were strongly suggesting it was, Mom had 2 full glasses of wine and she wanted to get in the car. In my country, you don't do that. You are not allowed to have an open container in the passenger compartment. Pardon? When I told her she couldn't, she chugged both of them. As I said, this is a woman you simply do not fuck with. Cues. Those cues. You guys call them cues, we call them lines. It's the same thing. I understand that folks on this side of the Atlantic enjoy those. It's a national pastime, isn't it? You seem to enjoy them because you're always in them. Oh, right. I think I was guest of honor at Confuzzled a number of years ago when they were still in Manchester. And somebody had jokingly told me, in the United Kingdom, if you stand still long enough, a queue will form behind you. They're laughing. When I got to the airport, because the United States is the only country that has ever suffered a security problem, the entire concourse is blocked off where planes are going to the U.S., leaving all of the passengers to sort of form a mob. And I thought of what this wag had told me. I said, we're going to test it. I was wearing the suit, I was carrying a briefcase, I had my bowler on. I just found a spot, put the briefcase down, took the bowler off, and I swear on my father's grave, they fell in behind me. It was the goddamnedest thing. I'm thinking to myself, it's It's real! Because, literally, like reverse second law of thermodynamics. They just all queued up going back and back and back. That created its own problem because now people were coming up to the front and the guard, who initially had been telling people, no, sorry, concourse is closed, is saying, I'm sorry, there's a queue. And I quipped to the lady behind me, I said, well, I actually run an event in the States. There's a little thing we do. We'll make a sign that says, this is the end of the queue. We'll give it to the last person with instruction, keep giving it to the person behind you. The guard overheard me and he said, brilliant! And he ran off, and I saw him come back. He was carrying an A4 piece of paper with Sharpie written on it, this is the end of the queue for US Airways 843 to New York, and just ran past. If anybody goes to Manchester Airport, I'm curious to know if they still have that system in place. Scientists, and I am a scientist, by the way, I don't just wear this for the effect. We like it when we are able to do something good for humanity, like teach them how to queue people up in an airport. I work at a biotechnology firm, which I am strictly under orders not to name, which is understandable, considering I may not be the best example. Last year, because everything I do is proprietary, I do so much good shit, I really wish I could brag about it, but I can't. It's all trade secret. So let's just say this. I did something really fucking cool. And it was gonna save the company literally tens of millions of dollars. A problem had come up. Sam solved the problem. Yay! The boss came to me and said, I want you to present all of that at our group meeting tomorrow. Sure, why not? It's not that I lack experience talking in front of crowds. So I went home and I started making the PowerPoint, and then it struck me. This had been very rushed. We needed this data right now. I had handed it in, but nobody else had actually looked at it. So it really hadn't been reviewed. I heard there's some people out there who are scientists who see where this is going. I was like, oh my, okay, what if I was wrong? Okay, it's the same as having my head and arms in a pillory. I went over every single number. I was checking every cell in the Excel file. If there was an error, I couldn't find it. I got to work early so I can go through it again while the while the PowerPoint was on the screen behind me. Everything looked right. Everything looked okay. And everybody came in and they all sat down, and it wouldn't have been so bad, but just as I started, the president of the company came in the back and sat down in the back. Do you know, has anybody ever experienced that sensation of having swallowed a cat? I brought up the first slide, and I was saying, okay, here is the problem, and here is the solution. And right away, I'm looking out over the crowd, and right away I'm seeing people go, if you're a scientist, The death knell is the glasses. When they do this, and then they do the glasses shake. I was nearly shitting my trousers. Nearly. Okay, let's be honest, I was. All right? But I thought, okay, in for a penny, in for a pound, we got to keep moving. And here is the supporting data that leads to my conclusion. And more I saw people at the end, I just wanted to leave, go outside, dig a grave, and crawl into it. My scientific career, I thought, was done. My credibility was gone. Let's get out of here. Well, if there are no questions, leave it to my darling colleague, Natalia. She is from Latvia. She was sitting right there. I have a question. Yes, Natalia, your question is, she said, why do you have condom on finger? Talk some more, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for your attention. My brother, keep it going for them, why don't you? We're in done on time. Okay, fuck off. You know where the bar is. Oh, let me know if everything comes out all right. He's got to have a wee.